Testing, testing. Okay. So today I'll make a Q&A session. And I have some answers prepared from the community. And I also... Come on. I also picked some from YouTube comments. And yeah, that's... And while I answer them, I'll try to play the game. But multitasking is not my strong suit, so we'll just see how it goes. So I have the questions here. And the first one is new office. So I'm currently house sitting for my parents, which are who are on vacation, and they have a bunch of animals that I take care of. So this is just temporary, and I'll be back in my apartment next week. So yeah. Also, I uploaded a trailer yesterday that's doing pretty well on YouTube, and I released version 0.50, which is what I'm playing right now. And yeah, it's a milestone in the game's development. So I decided the coast is good enough for now. It's on par with the forest, which was the first region. So the plan is to move on to the next region, which is which is a mountain range in the northwestern part of the map, and I'll probably begin that in the next couple of weeks. Hey Lily, fortunately busy at work, so we'll be just listening. That's fine. Glad you're here. Yeah, that's the plan right now. But before I start with the mountains, I want to make the enemies have more varied attacks, and also, if I can, secondary attacks that are much more powerful, that will only be that they'll only use in the later parts of the run, so that the difficulty is not this are not these numbers going up as it is right now, kind of, but that they're really gameplay challenges. So that's the goal. Okay, let's look at the next question. What is Rangedrifter? An open world, a linear plot, or survival? So Rangedrifter right now is a gauntlet, similar to the original Rogue, in that you'll have to reach a destination. It's set in a world that I made in the game's editor, so all of this is static, but the path you go through the world is different every time. So every run you'll get a new trajectory through the world with random enemies, random loot, and your goal is to survive and reach the end. And with this update, so previously the whole world was accessible in each run, but now I locked it to the regions. So you always start in the forest, and then you'll progress to the coast, and then later on to the mountains, and so forth. And the reason for that is mainly to give the player a better sense of progression, so that you clearly know when you reached the next region, because everything looks different, and yeah, you can make your way a bit further each time. So that's the reasoning behind that. And with the 2 regions, that's possible for the first time. So that's basically it. It's a gauntlet. And I'm working to make it more open. There's a discussion I've had with the community to make this an open world game, which is entirely possible, because the world is just there. There are a lot of caveats as well, so I'm not sure about that. But I do want the world to be more open, so that you have the option, for example, to go into a dungeon or skip it, things like that. Right now, all the dungeons are baked into the path, so you'll have to go through them, which is nice because it's a change of pace and environment. But there's no choice attached with that. So yeah, that's what the game is right now. Do you think someday the game will be finished? Congrats on 0.5. Hey Fuzzlings, we're halfway there. We're halfway to 1.0. Yes, and that's a perfect segue into the question, do you think the game will be finished one day? So it'll reach a point with 1.0 where I could just walk away from it and it'll be a game. But the goal always was to add to this game for a very long time. As long as it makes sense. If it's just repetitive the whole time, then of course that wouldn't make sense. But the world... So technically, everything's set up for the world to be much, much larger than the 4 regions that will make up 1.0. So, will it be finished one day? Not sure. Ask me again in a couple of years, probably. One deciding factor in all of this is, of course, does the game sell enough copies? Because right now I'm able to live off the game. But if that changes in the future, that will, of course, impact how fast the game can grow and also stay relevant. So a lot of question marks everywhere. But yeah, I'm planning to support this game for a very, very long time. And it's also the only game I'll make. So I've tried for 10 years to make a game that's that lives up to my standards. And this one is the only one that made it to release. So I went through the whole process so many times that, yeah, this is the last one, and I'm putting everything into it. So that's the background on that. Fortunately, versions don't count up like that. We could hit V25 before hitting 1.0. That's what it takes to get to the final version. I'm not quite sure if I get what you mean. We could hit version 0.25 before hitting version 1.0. That's what it takes to get to the final version. I'm confused. So there was a jump yesterday. So I jumped from version 4.1 to 5.0, and I mean the numbers aren't really that meaningful. So even if I don't make it to So having the mountains completed would put it at 0.75. But if I need more than 25 updates, then I can just add another 0. So it would be 0.741 or something like that. TBH, I'm not sure to understand that either. I'm sure Lily will explain. Hey Lurker, what's going on? By the way, new V0.5 vid on YouTube is doing well too. Yeah, it's doing quite well. And that's pretty cool. I also started a visibility round on Steam that hopefully shows the game to more people. And I may put it on a discount in the next couple of weeks, but I'm not sure about that actually, because I don't want it to come off as cheap. I mean, you also teleported somewhere. Yeah. Hey Ethan. That we're asking for 0.5 meant we were halfway to 1.0, but it's not a decimal system. Each number in the V system just implies a different level of update. For example, Minecraft is at... yeah. Yeah, 0.5 means we're halfway there. To recommend me the new trailer, it's nice. I'd like to see some title cards though, explaining what the game's about. Yeah, I saw that. People are quite confused on YouTube. Like a description on the website says that Forbidden Land, turn-based speed. Yeah. But I also didn't want to take away from the game's visuals, so... And I also don't want it to look like a TikTok video with 20 texts and smileys on it, so... But so I think explaining the game would be better done in a separate video. Which I maybe should have done before releasing the trailer, but then again, the YouTube algorithm is so completely random that you can't really predict anything. So yeah, that's what I live with. Good, next question. How many regions and what kind of regions will there be? So it's kind of the same question, but it plays into that. So there will be 4 regions for 1.0. Currently there are 2 in the game. And after that, who knows? And the regions are the forest region, then the coast region, and then will be next will be the mountains. I'm playing super badly right now. I apologize. I'm not really showcasing the game well. The third one will be the mountain range, and the fourth one I'm still not quite sure, but because they are so large, they will have to have different biomes in them. So I just can't make everything mountains and the mountain range. And also the coast has kind of a jungle to it and fields with blooming flowers, but then again more desert-like areas. So the mountains will be like that, and then probably a swamp region. But I'm also debating if I if it would be better if I made it more of a jungle region, because part of the fun of the game is the elevation, and having a swamp region that's completely flat would not really play well into the game's cards. So unless I could make it, not sure. So there was also, we had the idea on stream that there could be a volcano in the swamp region, so that would make this better. But I like the a dark grayish black theme for one of the regions. That would be pretty cool. But yeah, that's still open for now. You move somewhere else or just move to your PC? No, I'm house sitting right now for a week. Oh, teleporting. Okay, no, I get it. Having different trailers for different people purposes is a nice idea. Yeah. Will the game have a demo, or is this something out of scope? It had a demo. I disabled it for now because well, actually, with the separation of the regions, I can enable it again. So yeah, demo is tricky because, of course, I don't want it to show the whole game, but I also wanted to show the path system. So inherently you have this conflict in that you could explore basically everything in the demo, which is kind of defeats the purpose. And the demo had a timer on it that would end the game after 800 turns, and that's just frustrating. So yeah, demo is hard to make right, and I'm out of ideas. It's also not the highest priority, but having a demo, I think, really helps in people making a decision or even trusting the game with so much weird games on Steam. In his new mention, exactly, Ethan. Extra question, if it's not in the list, any idea if you'll make DLCs post-release, or will 1.0 be the end of development? So no, it won't be the end. And making DLCs, I've thought about it for 5 minutes or so, so not very deeply, but it would probably be a good idea. Just to keep some income after 1.0, but I'm not sure. Maybe I don't need it. My question was more about final game. I understand why you wouldn't want that before. Okay. Yeah. What are some inspirations for this game? The main one is probably right now is probably Rogue, the original Rogue. But there have been others. So the impetus for all of this was Delver. That's a small roguelike, first-person pixel graphics with randomized dungeons. And I wanted to make something like that, but then I realized I can't have that and a large world because it's just too much work. Because if you make the napkin calculation, that comes out to 10 years of work or so. So I switched to top-down and then looked at the original roguelikes. And so the core of all of this was always the world. So I built the game around that, basically. Where was I going with this? Okay, what's going on here? This is where I spawned, no? Okay. That was fun. Yeah, that was super cool. And so yeah, the world was always the driver for everything. And then I shoehorned a roguelike into it with the path, because that's a novel idea, and I knew it would be hard, and it is still not easy to make a game that's linear when you have this open world lying around, because you're tempted to yeah, just let the player roam everywhere. But the problem with the open world is that having a top-down view kind of destroys the seeing things on the horizon and walking there, and like Skyrim has. So it's not the best fit anyways. But yeah, that's why I originally decided against open world. And also open world is, if you're one person, that's basically yeah, it's not doable really in any reasonable amount of time, because it needs so much content to keep it interesting, that I went with the path system. So that's basically the inspirations. And then the backstory, I came up with that once I had the framework for the game, because I knew with the changing paths it had to be some kind of a magical thing. And then I came up with the illusions and the barrier and the backstory of the game. After, I'm not sure how long I thought about it, but when it came to me, I knew that that was the way to go. Single developer open world is crucifixion, both for the game and the developer. Yeah, it's, I mean, if you work in your basement for 10 years on it, it may turn out incredible. But I just can't commit to something like that. Yeah, so I would basically still be developing the world and not having a game released. Okay. Could you differentiate the main character more? So that is a recurring question on YouTube. Everybody complains about the character being the same color as the ground. And the problem is that I have a color palette, and the palette has, I think, 16 base colors. So no matter what color I make the hero, there will be elements in the game that make it difficult to distinguish. And also all of these comments come from people who haven't played the game. And if you play the game, I've never had problems distinguishing the player sprite, because it moves when you press a button, so your eyes are fixated on that. Hey Andre, how's it going? Welcome in. So I could change the as we came up, the idea was a color DLC for the hero. That's $20 for, I think red was 50. So that's a joke, but I get the idea behind it. I've just not come up with a good solution. And one of the goals is that this is a cohesive world, so I can't make the character shiny or something like that, because they would stand out as something separate from the world when they should be in it. Interesting that the main character has been an issue, and playing is easy because you're in the center of the screen. You can't lose yourself in the center of the screen. Yeah, I'm also a bit puzzled, but I think it's just watching someone else play that's always a bit harder to grasp than when you're playing yourself. So that may be it. Not sure. Okay, I wasted that potion. Add loot boxes with colors, one chance to roll shiny. That's another possibility. Okay, next question. If you could rewrite a part of the game, what would it be? Not sure if that's talking about code or about story or about the world. Really, it's a bit open, but let me think. So this is kind of like the question after that, I think. Let me see. Decisions you specifically regret. Yeah, that's basically plays into that. So the problem is feedback. So many of the decisions I make, I don't get any feedback for. So I also don't know if they were good decisions or bad decisions, other than my own intuition and due diligence, if I made any. So I'm quite happy with the game as it is. Otherwise I would have changed the thing that's irking me, or I'm about to change it because I didn't have time to do so yet. But actually, yeah, anything that I would regret, I would just change. So yeah, I'm not sure. The only thing maybe is that the game right now is pretty intimidating, I think, to new players. So that's probably an issue that I need to solve. But yeah, that's also a thing where you just need to be aware of the problem before you can solve it. So, but that may be an issue. So I'm looking into that. I think my SVN repo hates me. I've just added some more mods, and the total repo is 10 gigabytes. Using SVN to version Morrowind as install mods. If anything breaks. Yeah, that's your crazy nerdy Morrowind setup. So current wishlist users right now, they are here. So wishlist gone up quite a bit in the last couple of days. Have you added some more easing to the movement? It looks a lot smoother. Yeah, slowly growing. No, I changed how the easing is this. Oh yeah, it's the sneaking. You may have not seen that yet. So there's sneaking in the game, which slows down the animation. And I also changed how the screen shake works, so it looks a lot better. But that's about it. So yeah, no specific regrets, only problems I need to solve. Are the ASCII characters used to save on computational power? No. As I said before, they were just to make it possible for me to make the game, because they take away a lot of the effort required to make a game, specifically animations. So great. I worked in Blender. Oh my god, it's 10 years ago or so, where I was working on a FPS. No, actually not sure what it was, but I tried to make low poly weapon animations for an FPS, and it's incredible. It's such a pain in the ass. It's yeah, even with just vertex animations, the amount of time it takes to make a single animation in 3D on a 3D character, even low poly, is just mind-boggling. Granted, I'm also very bad at it, but that's why I did away with all of that. So the original idea was to have sprites, billboard sprites, in the 3D FPS idea that this game originally was. So that would have done away with all the 3D animations as well. But even then, flipbook animations are still an insane amount of effort, especially if you haven't found the look of the game yet. You're just doing it over and over and over again, and then for each character, maybe 10 iterations or so in total, multiplied by all characters. That's just, yeah, unfeasible to do alone. So that's the main reason. But yeah, there's nothing holding you off from really playing into the ASCII graphics once you've committed to them, because they have really cool things associated with them as well. For example, you can do much more with sound. Sound is much more evocative if you only have a symbol. Where's the path forward? Okay, here it is, I think. Yeah. And yeah, monster variety, there are no limits to what you can do, really. So that's pretty cool. And you can also depict things that would be extremely hard or really hard to depict with sprites or even 3D models with just a description, just 2 words, and if you do it right, then that can have the same impact. Okay, next question. What is that font? So the font in the game is... I went through all types of sprites for this game. I started with, I think, 8x8, then went to 6x8, and then went smaller and smaller. Because I can't show it right now, of course, but am walking back again? If you imagine this game as being 8x8, or maybe 8x6, 6x8, then the whole screen would show much more black, because all the lines would be much smaller. So it would look absolutely horrible. That's why I moved into smaller and smaller sprite sizes. And then the what I have right now is, I think it's 3x5, and that's the smallest size where you can still show characters, uppercase and lowercase. So that's what I ended up with. And then I also found the Pico 8 console. Oh god. And I'm not sure what I found first. If I made my font first and then found Pico 8, or the other way around. But in any case, at these small sizes, there's only one or two ways you can depict a character, so I went with that. And then I iterated over the glyphs, because there are some choices that have a pixel here or have a pixel here and an S character, for example. And I played with that for a couple of months until it didn't bug me anymore, so that's where the game is. And then I multiplied the... Am I working backwards here again? Let's start the run. I multiplied everything by 2, and then I added the the smoothing on the bottom of the characters so that it's more readable, and that's about it. Why is the color palette limited? Good question. But it's mainly because it's much easier to work with if you only have a handful of colors. First of all, you have much higher coherence between the colors, because you can, so that presumes that you're using a palette, which I do. So I could change the value of red in the whole game by just changing one color, and that makes it much easier to bring them into a whole that looks good, and that works. So it's mostly just to keep my sanity. And I also used I kind of copied how the NES does its color palette. I like Impressionists painting from the early 1900s, and I took a couple of these pictures that I like, and I threw them in the Adobe palette generator, and then picked all the colors that I liked, put them in the NES palette, which has 64 colors, I think. And that's just, I think it's 16 base colors and then 8 just value changes from dark to light. And I plopped them all in, and I've since changed a couple of them, but that's basically how the colors in the game came to be. Yeah. If you work on this game indefinitely, are you worried about the game getting too large and hard to maintain? Would another dev get involved, or would you implement hard set rules? That's a good question. That is a good question. So generally there's I just found that on, sometimes I read the Wikipedia articles on Y Combinator news. There was a Wikipedia article on a design philosophy, which is worse is better, and that says, and I ascribe to that, but I didn't know that it was a thing. So, but it means basically if something is too complicated, a new feature or an idea too complicated to implement, then you just don't do it. And that's what I do. So I'm not sure if the game will reach the point of unmaintainability in the future. Probably I will need to rewrite some things in the code to not go insane, because there's a lot of spaghetti right now, which is fine, because it's still logical, but and also refactoring code is mostly a bad idea. So I'm waiting till it's really until it's getting really hard to maintain, until I look at the architecture of the code, but it works fine. And what I also learned is that quality control, you'll have to do that anyways. If your code is good or bad, you can't trust it either way. So there's not that great of benefit to having a super normalized code base. And it would also probably limit everything you do afterwards. Someone should make a Rangedrifter theme for popular editors' IDEs. You mean the Pico 8 font? That would be a nightmare, probably. Great. Okay, next question. What is your development stack? That's a good segue. Just color scheme. That could work. Yeah, they're all the same value. So that could work. So what is my development stack? It's pretty simple. I am developing the game on Linux. I started on OpenBSD, but that became unfeasible. I think I switched after I started streaming in earnest. So it's on Linux. I mean, I'm on Debian, because on an old version of Debian, because you have the glibc thing. Anyways, so the game is written in VI. It's a fork of the original VI. It's the OpenBSD version of VI, which has a window function, which is awesome. And then I use Clang to compile the game for Windows and for Linux. So it's a cross-compile for Windows. I'm only ever on Windows. I was for the port initially. I was a lot on Windows and worked in the WSL there. But nowadays I only boot up Windows for testing. So I compile everything on Linux. It's a VI. VI stands for visual. Is a very old editor, command line editor. So yeah, I'm basically in the command line the whole day, and I compile with Clang for Linux and Windows. I have one make file, a large make file with some flags in it that I can use to build the game, to make commits, to update the website, basically everything. All the commands I need are in this one make file. And then to build the game, I gzip the world data. I compress, so the audio in the game is all in one large WAV file, and that I edit from time to time. And when I push a release, I convert that to OGG, and then I don't think I compress it again. I convert it to OGG, and all the assets then land in the executable using object copy. So the game is released in just one file, which I stole from Spelunky too, actually, this idea. And then it gets delivered. And then I uploaded it on Steam via the browser, and then I switched to... I shut down the computer, I boot into Windows, Jesus, and I test the game. I boot into Ubuntu, I test the game, and then I go back to Debian and release the build. That's how I do it. And you use C or CPP? It's purely C. Yeah. The game is pure C. Mainly because I don't get CPP or C++. Too complicated for me. And also it compiles so much slower, it's crazy. If I can tell Clang to just compile the C code as if it was C++, and it would take 10 times longer. So that's maybe the most limiting factor of CPP, in that the turnaround time from compiling the game, making a change, compiling the game, running it again is super fast with C. I mean, it'll get slower and slower as the game gets more complicated, but it's totally fine right now. That presupposes that you're compiling with no optimizations, because that takes longer, of course. But yeah, it's a price you pay for all the sugar, probably. Man, I'm really bad today in the game. That's the development stack. Did I forget something? No, that's basically it. It's VI, that's just Xterm. And oh yeah, the window manager is CWM. Also really, really old. It's basically the default OpenBSD installation on Linux, because yeah, OpenBSD is just the most sane operating system. Most people these days use engines. You don't like that path? I've tried them all. I've tried... Okay, that's a bug right there. I've tried Unreal, Unity, Godot, but they all don't work with my brain. So they all want me to adapt their way of making games, and that's just not working for me. So that's a huge reason. Another reason is that I'm completely independent, of course, from what they're doing with their engine. One of the large downsides is that the engines have updates, and I hate updates. I hate when someone tells me to do work for no reason at all. And that's what updates do. That's the same with iOS updates. I absolutely hate them. That's the worst part of being a app developer, for example. Apart from their expiring certificates, etc. But I just didn't want to deal with any of this, so I built my own. TBH, I don't see an advantage of using an engine for a game like that. I mean, you'd be much faster, of course, because there would be no work you have to do up front in order to start the game. So I worked on the engine for a year at least, before I even got to the game. Tend to write my own. One big reason: you're forced to learn the way of thinking. 2, you have to owe royalties. 3, they can change the licensing. 4, you sometimes have to use languages you're not productive in. 5, you don't have total ownership of the product. Yeah, that's all valid. All valid. Okay, let's look at the next question. What about ports to other platforms? So the limiting factor here is, first of all, popularity. Well, that's not the first one. The first one is time. Let's speak about popularity first, though, to get everything else out of the way. So to have to make a port on any of the consoles, you'll have to have a significant sales record before they even consider letting you into their catalog. So that rules out basically all the consoles. Then the other platforms, what's left? Mac OS. That's just a time factor. So because releasing something on macOS is so gate-kept and so guarded by Apple, there are extra steps you have to take each time. So you have to get the app notarized for it to release on Steam, which is, I mean, it would probably take a day to write a script that does that. But that's one hurdle, and who knows they come up with next. But the main hurdle is that I need to, so in order to release an update, I need to test it, of course. So right now I have Ubuntu and Windows, and if I had Mac as well, I would have to test it on Mac, and that would, so every Friday when I release the game, it takes me about 6 to 9 hours, simply because I need to test everything. I need to write the builds, make the builds, I need to write all the update logs, etc. So it takes a long time. And if I add Mac to that, it just would add something on top. Apart from all of that, I also don't have a Mac right now. That's of course another issue, because you would have one. Cries in Apple. And yeah, back to the time thing, I would also have to write the port, of course. It's not like I can just update the build scripts. I would have to integrate with all of their APIs. And that is mainly, I think OpenGL still works, so that would be less of an issue. That would be an issue on Switch, for example. I would have to rewrite the renderer in Vulkan. The problem with Macs is that they all have high retina displays and also completely different controller APIs. And I'm sure there's something else that would be more complicated than you think it would be. So basically it's just a time thing. Same with GOG, for example. I think you have to apply for the Good Old Games store, and there will also be a whole different packaging pipeline that would complicate everything. So I'm just not ready right now to move that much time out of my day just for the other platforms and not work on the game itself. But yeah, although I want to port the game to as much platforms as possible in the future, but it has to be more stable because I still have so much work to do that it's eye-watering. And I've been on a well, I've worked at least 12 to 13 hours on the game every single day since at least February, and not much less in the 2 years before that. So I also need to maybe tone it down a bit instead of amping it up, just for my sanity. And also, I think the game gets worse the more time I sit in front of it. So that's a calculation. But I mean, I won't fall below 8 hours a day. 8 hours seems low, so it's more like 10 or so. 10 seems healthy at this point. And that includes weekends, by the way. The last couple of months. So yeah, I'm basically booked out in terms of time. Okay, next one. Is this true 3D or just a clever 2D trick? So I have no idea how you would make this in 2D. So it is just simply 3D. And even if you, I mean, I think this question is a bit nonsensical, because clearly you have to have some form of a concept of 3D in your engine to get this kind of look. But yeah, it's just it's 3D. It's basically quads, a grid of quads. So the whole terrain is a VBO, or it's a grid of VBOs that are static, that I can retessellate every frame, so that's pretty fast. But the all the gameplay elements are just quads I render, and they have a couple of layers, so they look better. But yeah, it's just 3D. Right, is the game Steam Deck friendly? Yes, I haven't played it myself on the Steam Deck, but Ray has played it a lot, and there are a lot of reviews on the Steam page that say predominantly played on Steam Deck, so I think it should work fine. And there's nothing that I could find out why it wouldn't. Oh god, what's going on here? Okay. Nice. I'm gonna use my MacBook to wipe the tears away. A Mac is locked to OpenGL 4.1, which does support OpenGL, by the way. What? Okay, that's new to me. Up to 4.5 and OpenGL ES1 or OpenGL S, I believe. Okay, that's cool. Yeah, so I use the bare bones OpenGL version. I think 2.1. So that should be compatible with anything, as long as it supports OpenGL, of course. Uh-oh. Alright, last question that I have. Is this the final look of the game? Sounds like another YouTube question. Yes, this is the final look of the game. There's a... I have FXAA in the game, in the engine, not enabled. I have an XBR filter in the engine that's not enabled. So that could change the look of the game, but I don't think I will enable them. And the reason is, so first of all, you don't need the FXAA really, but the XBR filter, which rounds all the corners of all the sprites, the game looks better at first glance, but it also makes it less abstract. And feel more like, for example, this spider right here would look more like the real thing, but I want it to stay abstract, if that makes sense. I don't want to go too far into the representative corner, because that then drops you out of visualizing all of this stuff in your head. But yeah, there are particle effects that I wanted to implement for months now, which are birds and what was the other one? Fish. So there are still flourishes that I want to add, but and another thing that I could do graphically is make the borders more variable. So right now these stone tiles have these more cornered edges, which is pretty cool, I think. But I could take this further. For example, yeah, here. These much sharper corners here. I could take this further. For example, sand. I could make sand tiles be... what's the word? To not have these gaps in them. Make them rounded but not have gaps, so that would differentiate them. And but generally there's not much to add to this look. That I could think of. Yeah. Oh, one thing is, but that's a very open question. One thing could be to have the lighting not be centered on the hero the whole time. I tried that out, it looks amazing. But it also doesn't quite fit the rest of the lighting right now. But that would make it look much better if you had light sources, for example, attached to this house right here and not to the hero. So then I would walk in the dark and come into the light right here. And that could then tie in with the sneaking. but I would have to change the color values. So the problem is that the shade is just too dark for the hero to be walking around in the whole time. So yeah. Good. Those are my questions that I had written down. Chat, do you have questions? Still questions, or should we wrap it up? The Q&A stream. Nothing from me. All right, Ethan. I mean, you've been here so long, you basically know everything. Got nothing? All right. Okay, so then let's just talk quickly about next week. So today I think I'll write a post for Reddit, the Roguelikes subreddit, but yeah, that's probably what I'll do. And then maybe I should make a video on what this game is, because yeah, to clear up the confusion I created on YouTube. So I may do that tomorrow or today. Well, I'd have to plan that for it not to be useless. But yeah, so the next 2 weeks or so, I will first of all look at the open world idea again. I'm still years later, I'm still fluctuating between, is it a great idea, is it a bad idea? I watched a bit of Gamescom and looked at all the games that are coming out, and basically everything is open world, and it's pretty lame. But and I also don't have the content for the open world, so that's maybe the main problem. But I will look into it again, and maybe I'll have a epiphany on how to combine paths and an open world, which would probably be the way to go. So making the path not lead through these patches, but through larger subregions. Not larger, but small subregions. That could probably be a good mix. So I'll look into that, and then I will work on the monsters. And then I'll plot out the mountain region and begin work on that. And I did a small part for the mountains, and it looks really cool. I really like it. So I'm really looking forward to starting with that. But yeah, if you guys got nothing, then I'll probably end here for today, and I will be, so I didn't stream basically at all this week, which I apologize for, but I just had this marketing push to do. But I'll be streaming more next week again, and I'm not sure if I'll stream the thought process for the open world, because that I just can't think on stream. I can't think straight, and that yeah, it leads to worse ideas sometimes. But I'll definitely keep you posted on that. Okay guys, thanks for stopping by. If you're watching on YouTube, I hope this Q&A cleared up some things. I will probably create a what is roguelike, what is Rangedrifter, what is roguelike, what is a Rangedrifter video, probably, maybe. And yeah, thank you guys all for stopping by, really appreciate it. And I will probably be back tomorrow, or maybe I'll take a day off, not sure. I'll keep you posted. All right guys, where's my OBS? All right, see you in Discord guys, bye bye.